Prince Al-Walid was known as the Sleeping Prince, a young Saudi royal whose story touched millions. He spent 20 years in a coma before passing away at the age of 36. Born into wealth and power, his life seemed destined for greatness until tragedy struck. People around the world wondered why he never woke up, why his father was always by his side, and where his mother was during those long years. The mystery behind his life, his accident, and the final moments before his death continues to move people deeply. His journey is a story of love, faith, and unshakable hope. Prince Al-Walid was born into the Saudi royal family, the grandson of a former king. Surrounded by luxury, he still grew up humble and well-mannered. His childhood was full of opportunities, and his family prepared him for a future in leadership. At 16, he was sent to study at one of the most prestigious military colleges in London. He was intelligent, disciplined, and determined to serve his country. His teachers admired him, and his future looked bright. But no one knew that his life would soon take a heartbreaking turn that would change everything forever. One day, his life changed in a single moment. While driving with two friends, his car crashed into a concrete barrier at high speed. His friends survived with fewer injuries, but the prince suffered a severe head injury and major brain damage. Witnesses say that when he briefly regained consciousness, the first thing he asked was about the condition of his friends before falling into unconsciousness again. That small moment showed his kindness and concern for others. Sadly, doctors soon realized the damage was too great, and his chance of recovery was extremely low. The prince was rushed to the hospital, where doctors tried everything to save him. Their medical reports were grim, predicting he might not live beyond 3 days. They suggested turning off the machines, but his father refused, saying only God had the right to decide his fate. He stood by his son's side, holding his hand and praying. His belief in a miracle was unshakable. Soon, the prince was transferred to Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, to one of the best hospitals in the country. This was the beginning of a long battle that would last 2 decades. The media began calling him the Sleeping Prince. His father, Prince Khalid, made it his life's mission to care for his son. He spent millions on treatments, bringing in top doctors from around the world. Nurses worked day and night, turning him to prevent bed sores, speaking to him, and reading to him as if he could hear. Over the years, his father tried every possible method, from advanced medical procedures to emotional stimulation. Quran recitation and classical music filled the room, with hope that sound might wake him. Every tiny movement was seen as a sign of hope, keeping faith alive. After 10 years in a coma, the prince was moved from the hospital to a specially built medical room inside the royal palace. This private clinic had all the necessary equipment, monitors, ventilators, and IV drips, so he could receive the best care at home. His father visited daily, sharing family news and reading to him. He believed his son could hear him, especially during the recitation of the Quran. Sometimes the prince would slightly turn his head, giving hope that he was responding. Musicians were invited to play classical music, and nurses continued speaking to him with kindness and patience. Moments of hope began to go viral. A video showed him slowly moving his head from side to side. Another clip captured him twitching his fingers during a medical procedure. These small signs were celebrated by his family and supporters worldwide. Millions viewed the videos online, sending prayers and messages of encouragement. Doctors, however, warned that such movements might be reflexes rather than signs of recovery. But for his father, each gesture was a miracle, proof that his love and dedication were not in vain. His belief in his son's eventual awakening never faded. While the world admired the father's devotion, many wondered about the prince's mother. She rarely appeared in public or spoke to the media. In Saudi culture, women often stay out of the spotlight, and this seemed to be the case for her. But those close to the family said she carried the same pain and hope in her heart. She grieved quietly, away from cameras and news stories. Though unseen, her emotional bond with her son was deep and unbroken throughout the 20 years of his illness. There were also rumors about the prince's love life before the accident. It was said he had been engaged to his cousin since childhood, a common tradition in royal families. According to some reports, she never married and continued visiting the family even after years had passed. The story was never confirmed officially, but it added to the emotional weight of his situation. People liked to believe she was still waiting for him, holding on to the possibility of a miracle that would bring him back. Sadly, the Sleeping Prince's tragedy was not unique. Many young royals in the Arab world have faced untimely deaths, often connected to risky lifestyles or accidents. Dubai's Crown Prince Rashid Al Maktoum and Sheikh Khalid Al Qasimi of Sharjah both died young. Prince Abdul Azim of Brunei and Prince Abdul Jalil of Malaysia also left the world too soon. Like Al Walid, they had wealth, status, and charm, but fate cut their journeys short. His story stood out because his life didn't end instantly. It was paused for 2 decades, suspended between life and death. For 20 years, the prince's life was lived within the walls of his medical room. He never stepped outside, never celebrated in grand halls, and never saw the world again. His birthdays were quiet gatherings, attended only by close family members. They would decorate his room, bring flowers, and pray for his recovery. Even as time passed, his father continued to speak to him as if he could hear, sharing news and stories. To the outside world, it seemed impossible to imagine a young man growing into adulthood without ever waking to see it. Doctors often said his case was one of the rarest they had ever seen. Most patients with such severe brain injuries do not survive more than a few weeks or months. Yet his body kept going for nearly 2 decades, fighting against all odds. Over time, however, complications became harder to manage. Weight loss, infections, and organ problems slowly weakened him. In the end, it was his heart that gave out. After 20 long years, the battle was over, and his soul returned to his creator. His father shared the heartbreaking news online, quoting verses from the Quran. In his message, he wrote with deep sorrow, announcing the passing of his beloved son and thanking everyone who had prayed for him over the years. The news spread quickly across the world, and thousands sent condolences to the royal family. For many, it felt like the end of a long and emotional journey they had followed for decades, one that had been marked by hope, patience, and faith. The story of the Sleeping Prince leaves a lasting lesson for the world. It reminds us that no amount of power or wealth can protect anyone from life's trials. Tragedy can touch anyone, and in those moments, faith and love are what keep people going. His father's devotion and refusal to give up became a symbol of persistence, showing that even in the darkest times, hope can shine. Prince Al Walid will always be remembered as the Sleeping Prince, not only for the years he spent in a coma, but for the story of love and loyalty that surrounded him. His journey teaches us to value the time we have, care for those we love, and never take life for granted. Even in sorrow, his legacy lives on in the hearts of those who were moved by his story. It is a reminder that life is precious, fragile, and worth cherishing every single day.